"Don't move," he barked, breath shallow, hand trembling over the violin case. "No one gets out until this is over." The only sound was the brittle rasp of paper as she slid the journal across the table. "You're making a mistake," the older man spat, voice cracking. He flexed his grip tighter, sweat cutting through the grime on his palm. "You wanted the gold, didn't you? So here it is, every dirty secret you buried along with it." "Let's all stay calm," someone else whispered, words lost in the attic's stale air. He kicked the case open with his boot. "Don't touch that, not until you admit what you did." She leaned forward, steady-eyed. "How much is your silence worth tonight?" His jaw clenched, the ceiling groaned, floorboards shifting under feet. From the far corner, the shadowed figure finally spoke. "Someone better talk or I will." 4 days earlier, long before gold and secrets tumbled into the light, he was just a man standing at the edge of ruin, clutching a key, not yet knowing what doors it would force him to open. Garrett's hands were raw and anxious as he twisted the ancient brass doorknob, a strip of neon notice of sale tape dragging against his boot. The boarded-up Victorian Manor loomed over the wilted chestnut trees of southern Alabama, its windows like the wary eyes of an animal cornered for too long. Behind him, his pickup shuddered, the last of his tools, crammed in the bed, reminders of a carpentry business gutted overnight. There were $78 in his checking account and a court notice looming on the dash, threatening to seize the whole mess if he missed this week's tax hearing. A voice echoed from the overgrown sidewalk. "You actually coming back here, Garrett? Place is poison." He didn't turn. Noah Biddles, the assessor, was already halfway down the block, smirking like he just dropped the last nail in Garrett's coffin. Only a week earlier, that same smirk had greeted him as the judge handed over the title to the manor. Hundreds of square feet of dry rot, with an $80,000 tax bill stapled to its reputation, written off as worthless since half of Chestnut Hill rumored it was cursed. Garrett nudged the yard sign with his toe. It toppled into damp weeds. Inside, he kept moving, must and staleness overpowering. "You said the gas is on," he called. No answer. The echo mocked him, bouncing hollowly off warped floorboards. "Okay then, just me and the ghosts." His voice barely sounded like his own. Each room was a time capsule for someone else's regret. He counted 7 leaks in the walls on the ground floor alone, glass crunching under every step. Upstairs, in what used to be his mother's study, he found the first sign that anything here might once have meant something. A slender, cracked journal wedged behind the faded wainscot. It fell open to a page not in her neat script, but in crimped, blocky handwriting. A single sentence was underlined in angry graphite. "Attic trunk under panel like you promised. Song remains." A jolt sharp as winter air. He stared at the line, mouth going dry. There was no signature, just an old pressed daisy between the pages, brittle, yellow, probably dead longer than he'd been alive. His phone buzzed. He ignored it. He ran his finger beneath the words. "Attic trunk under panel." It couldn't be. Most everything Garrett owned now fit in the truck out front, yet his hands moved before he thought. He was already searching for the stairs, mind racing. If you've ever watched your world shrink to the size of a single clue, just enough hope to keep you moving, then don't look away. This story is for you. The attic ladder howled when Garrett pulled it down, spitting dust into his face. He angled his flashlight up, heart jackhammering. The musty darkness pressed in, every step on the ladder a calculated risk. Splinters stung his palm as he climbed into the cramped garret, ignoring the cobwebs brushing his cheeks. The orchard's dying sweetness leaked through a broken window, mingling with the attic's sour, time-thick scent. He scanned the space, a field of bruised trunks, some too heavy for one man to drag. He started with the farthest, pulling lids slowly, each one sighing open with a memory he didn't want. Baby shoes, faded dolls, yellowed news clippings, all part of someone else's forgotten life. The last trunk sat under the eastern eave, its iron hasp rusted shut. Garrett worked his pocket knife into the seam. A pop, then the lid opened with a grinding complaint. Inside, heavy blankets, a coil of violin strings, cracked cases. He tugged on the largest and it slid off kilter, revealing not just a violin case but a second battered box beneath it. His pulse stuttered. He pried the violin case open. The velvet lining was frayed, patched in a way only his grandfather's hands would bother to fix. There, under a false bottom just loose enough to catch fingernails, something hard. Behind him, the wind slapped the broken window, making him flinch. He braced himself, then pulled the panel free. A velvet pouch fell out, its heft unmistakable. He opened it. Inside, gleaming coins, dull with age but unmistakably gold. Tucked with them, a sheaf of thick, pale bonds marked with government seals. He stared, the weight of it all pressing down as the gloom gathered in tight. Gold coins, government bonds, in a ruined attic under a floorboard described only in a private journal. His thumb brushed the inside of the violin case and found, wedged beneath the velvet, a second folded sheet. His mother's handwriting, more fluid, the ink faded at the edges. "Garrett, if you're reading this, the song inside is the one we never finished. Don't let them take what's yours. Follow the notes, child. Trust only those who remember the orchard in spring." He froze, pulse thumping in his chest. The case wasn't just a hiding place. It contained a map, sketched across the back in spidery lines, symbols marking rooms, latticework, and a single apple tree marked with an X. He jolted upright, realization slicing through the haze. His grandfather hadn't just been a simple farmer. He'd been hiding more than money. The government seals gleamed in the flashlight's beam, bonds issued decades earlier, initials inscribed. The air tasted new, like rain about to fall. "Let's see what you really left behind," he whispered to the attic. He snapped a quick picture on his phone, a last safeguard in case anyone came before him. He checked his watch. 4 nights until the assessor, Noah, came back from Europe, 4 days to prove this wasn't just another fable buried under dust and debt. Garrett pocketed the coins and bonds, the journal clutched against his side. He moved back toward the stairs, the house groaning around him. He passed through the kitchen, lights flickering, phone buzzing again. This time he answered. "Garrett, that you?" The voice was warm, southern-twanged, Linda Hom, his mother's old friend and the only lawyer he could trust. "I need your help," Garrett said, voice rough. "I think there's more in this place than anyone knew, and I've got proof." Linda's breath hitched. He pictured her at her kitchen table, red mug trembling. "Are we talking the old story, the informant stuff, you know what happened to your mother?" "Yeah," he cut in, "but there's a map, some kind of code in her handwriting." She exhaled, slow and wary. "Then don't tell a soul, not yet. I'll meet you in an hour at my office, and bring the case." The call cut off. Garrett pressed the phone to his forehead. If the bonds and gold were real, if his mother's map meant what he thought, it would upend everything, not just for him, but for everyone who'd ever touched this rotten house. As night pressed in, Garrett locked the trunk back and hurried for his truck. Thunder prowled the horizon as Garrett sped down backroads, hands slick on the steering wheel. He squinted through the glare of oncoming headlights, every phone call and memory circling in his mind like hungry birds. The old manor faded in the rearview, replaced by ragged pines and the blinking red eyes of traffic signals. Rain threatened as he crossed the battered bridge into downtown Chestnut Hill, water sheeting and blurring the world. He cut through side streets toward Linda's rusted clapboard law office. The rain finally broke, hard. He ducked inside, violin case tucked under his arm, bonds bundled in his jacket. Linda, her gray curls wild and her gingham shirt rumpled, beckoned him in with a quick wave. She dropped her voice, eyes wide. "Show me." Garrett set the violin case on her battered desk. "I found this in the attic, like the journal said." He handed her the note with the map. "And these, they look government-issued." She ran her fingers over the bonds, punctuating the silence with a whistle. "That's not just old money. Those bonds look right here, Treasury authentication. They're still live." He stared. "How much?" "Just eyeballing it, $250 million minimum, maybe more considering provenance." Her hand trembled as she flipped through the pages of the journal. He didn't dare blink. She found the relevant page, scanning it with practiced eyes. Your mother says there's leverage tied to these testimonies, records of your grandfather's work as a government informant. Not just moonshine snitching, Garrett. She lists names, judges, contractors, local officials, all still in power, some of them. His jaw tightened. You ever hear of an assessor on the take? Linda snorted. Noah Biddles has always played both sides. Heard he's laundering half the waterfront for a developer named Farley. And what do you know, he was the one who tried to buy this place for pennies after the estate got flagged for code violations. A roaring in his ears, Garrett pressed his palms flat on the desk. So what's my move? Go to the feds? Linda shook her head. Too risky. If Noah comes back from Europe and finds out, he'll burn it all. You need hard proof, not just these, but the rest of your grandfather's dossier. And you've got 3.5 days before he lands, less if he gets word. Thunder shook the window. In the flickering light, time seemed to collapse around Garrett. The stakes had changed. He wasn't just fighting for his survival, he was walking into a war. He left her office burning with urgency. The next morning, Garrett was back at the manor before dawn. The journal's map led him across the apple orchard, shoes cutting trenches in the mud. Dew painted the dying fruit silver. He counted paces from the broken gate, aiming for the X by the eldest tree. He knelt and dug, nails torn, mud caking his skin. Just when his back screamed for mercy, his fingers scraped wood beneath the roots. A box, sealed with wax and stamped with faded initials. He pried it open. The sight stole his breath. Reels of old recordings, typed affidavits, even faded Polaroids, his grandfather shaking hands with men in government suits. Most damning, a half-dozen signed agreements implicating key officials in laundering, intimidation, cover-ups. He nearly doubled over. This was no family legend. He snapped more photos, careful to keep mud off the documents. He scanned each line, heart pounding. Suddenly, the crunch of gravel snapped his attention. He stuffed everything back in the box and rose, heart hammering. Noah Biddle's cousin, Dale, slid out of a battered Buick, arms crossed. Funny seeing you out here, Gav, looking for apples in the mud. Garrett straightened, holding the box close. None left worth stealing. Dale stomped closer, sneering. Everyone says you're losing it in that house. Maybe you should hand over what's left before you get into trouble. Garrett, breath steady, staring him down. You here for Noah or your own cut? Dale spat on the ground, nostrils flaring. You've got until noon tomorrow to deliver everything you find, no cops. You get cute, bad things happen. Noted, Garrett's jaw flexed. Tell Noah I'll see him before he even touches down. Dale glared, then stalked off. Tires crunched, fading into the morning fog. As the tension hung, Garrett glanced at the bonds in his hand and the edge of a family photo. With adrenaline thrumming, he raced to the kitchen. He dug into the drywall by the pantry. According to the journal, this was the secondary cache. He found another envelope, witness statements. He heard it plain and brittle. If they come for you, don't trust anyone who hands you a deal, the letter read, written in his grandfather's crisp hand. Your only leverage is the truth. The orchard's roots run deeper than their papers. He wiped sweat from his brow, surveying a pile of evidence. It was enough to bury Noah and any partner for miles around. He moved to the phone, but this time his call wasn't to Linda. He punched in a number from the bottom of the grandfather's letter. A woman's voice answered, voice grave. It's been years. I told your grandfather I'd stay quiet. Garrett whispered, they're coming for me and for whatever's left here. If you believe in justice, I need your help. A pause, then, meet me tonight 9 p.m. down by the Civil Rights Memorial. Don't bring anyone, I'll verify the lineage. Garrett hung up, stomach twisting. That night, bag shoved under his arm, he stalked down rain-slicked streets toward the memorial. Every gust of wind plucked at his nerves. The city was different after midnight. Windows shuttered, plumes of neon smoke drifting from late-night diners, the monument's marble slick with stormwater. The woman, Imogen, her face a map of lines, waited beneath the statue. She kept her scarf close and her voice low. "You have John's eyes. I'll need more than just a face for proof." He handed her the violin case, the map, the bonds. Gently, she examined the certificate of lineage, compared the signatures. Relief softened her stare. "They'll turn on each other the moment they realize you have this," she intoned softly. "Noah's loyalty starts and ends with himself. Bring these to the authorities, but wait for my cue. We'll do it at the manor, public, before any more evidence can vanish." "So you're the witness. Why trust you now?" Garrett's distrust leaked out. She squeezed his wrist. "Your grandfather saved my life once. It's time I pay it back. I'll walk you in when it counts." Her grip was stronger than he expected. With dawn threatening, Garrett rushed home to copy every document, every tape. He called Linda again, voice flat from exhaustion. "I've got more than enough to burn them all. Imogen's ready to testify." His voice wavered as stormlight filtered through cracks in the kitchen ceiling. "We do this on my ground, no tricks." Linda exhaled, purposeful. "Bring everything to the manor tonight. I'll summon every name on this list, Noah's partners, the officials. We'll corner them before anyone can run." He nodded, adrenaline taut. The manor sounded different this time, alive, almost humming with anticipation. Garrett spread the documents on the faded dining table, Linda beside him, Imogen seated with calm purpose. One by one, the figures arrived. Noah, fresh from his flight, suit still creased, Dale at his shoulder, 2 city officials, and even Mrs. Farley, the would-be developer, eyes fox-bright and wary. They clustered in the parlor, every one tense, scanning for advantage. Noah's grin was wolfish. "Long trip, son. Hope you've taken good care of my new asset." Linda set her jaw. "Cut the act, Noah. We're not here for pleasantries." Imogen's voice cut through. "I'm here to verify lineage and crimes. Heirs only, not thieves." Noah flashed cold. "If this is a shakedown." Garrett opened the violin case with deliberate care. "This isn't a threat, it's evidence. Proof of theft, laundering, collusion with officials. It's over, Noah." A flicker in Noah's eyes. "You can't prove I took anything." "You signed off on phone evaluations, laundered money through shell companies," Linda replied, gathering steam. "Every transaction, every bribe, right here." Noah smirked, forcing false calm. "That case full of gold isn't yours, son." "Neither was the house," Garrett shot back, voice rising. "Yet here we are. I've got your deals, your signatures, witness statements, all of it." A city official wavered, pale. "We were told it was just foreclosure. That's all, no bribes." Linda pointed at the stack of affidavits. "Judges, bankers, let's get them on a call. This is going to the press tonight." Mrs. Farley whispered, "You said I'd be protected. You swore." Noah snapped, eyes wild. "You keep quiet or you go down with me." Garrett locked eyes with Noah. "No one gets out until this is over." Linda pressed a recorder forward. "Everything being documented. Imogen, your testimony." Imogen's voice was steely. "I confirm John Whittaker's true ownership. I saw Noah accept bribes to fix the estate sale years prior." "That's a lie," Dale blurted, voice cracking. Imogen glared. "The recordings will prove it." Noah's facade shattered. He spun to Mrs. Farley. "You don't talk, we walk." Farley shook her head. "Not falling for jail time, Noah, not after what you did." A pulse of panic flowed through the room as Mrs. Farley grabbed Linda's sleeve. "I'll testify, cut me a deal." Linda's gaze sparkled with grim satisfaction. "Be my guest." Noah lunged for Garrett, eyes wild with desperation. "The estate was worthless. What you think you'd find?" Garrett braced himself, standing his ground. "Every dirty secret you buried along with it." "Everyone needs to stay calm," Mrs. Farley said, strained. Noah's hand trembled toward his briefcase. Linda's voice cut him short. "Try to destroy anything and I'll call in the feds now." Silence screamed in the attic as Garrett kicked open the violin case. Gold coins spilled out, winking in lamplight. "Don't touch that," not until you admit what you did." Mrs. Farley looked frightened now. "How much is your silence worth tonight?" Garrett's jaw twitched. "I'm done being quiet." A shadowed city official, quiet until now, stood up, voice sharp. "I have children. I'm talking to the DA tomorrow." Noah's shoulders caved. Dale sputtered, "We can cut a deal, right?" But Linda shook her head, already dialing. "You're cutting deals with prosecutors, not with us." Imogen's gaze settled on Garrett, finally warm. "John would have liked your style." Noah moved for the door, but Linda blocked him. Garrett watched the effect, every villain faced with exposure and jail, vying to be first to betray the others. Mrs. Farley scribbled names. Dale turned on Noah, voice echoing through the rafters. The city official offered files. One by one, their alliances collapsed. Sunlight broke over the orchard as police sirens painted the stained glass. As the officers entered, Linda handed them the violin case, gold, and the stack of documents. Garrett exhaled, every muscle sudden lightness. He'd made it. In the aftermath, the headlines blazed. "Hidden gold at Cursed Manor triggers political meltdown." Noah Biddles, Dale, and Mrs. Farley all plea bargained, providing volumes of evidence. Jail sentences, career death, public disgrace. Chestnut Hill watched justice dismember its rotten history. Imogen's testimony became legend. Linda was inundated with thank-you notes and book deal offers. As Garrett stepped into sunlight, shoulders squared, a publisher already called. His memoir soared, tales of the manor's secrets and a family's fight for dignity poured across every airport bookstore. He rehung the house's battered door, painted a single window, and let the orchard breathe again. The world had shrunk to nothing, and then impossibly bloomed wide. Sometimes the hardest nails to drive are the ones on your own coffin. This time, Garrett built a door instead and walked straight through. If you've ever stared down ruin and still found the spark to push back, maybe you've already held more gold than you know. The only thing cursed about the past is thinking it still owns you. Garrett stood on the porch as the last patrol car wheeled onto Chestnut Avenue, blue lights fading under the blossoming arc of June. The night's adrenaline drained from his limbs, replaced by a hush, a strange, unburdened peace. Dawn brushed gold over the orchard, the first rays scattering against raindrops strung like beads from every branch. He inhaled deep, scent of wet earth and clover anchoring him to the moment. Behind him, the manor hummed, no longer a mausoleum of secrets, but something new, bright with possibility. Linda leaned in the doorway, tapping her mug. "You could tear this place down and build new, you know." He laughed soft, surprised at how genuine it sounded. "Not sure I want to. I think it's earned another season." "You got a future now, Garrett. Not just gold and headlines, but a clean title. Think you'll stay?" He glanced down the row of battered windows, caught sight of a blossom scrawled on the old kitchen glass, the one his mother painted for luck. "I think I will. Maybe get the floorboards singing again." Linda smiled, then stepped down beside him, her boots squelching. "You'll need a hand for that." Her tone was fierce, fond. "And if any ghosts linger, be sure they know the law's on your side now." He shook his head in disbelief, heart buoyant. "Wouldn't have happened without you, Linda, or Imogen." Linda's gaze turned far away, recalling graves no one visited and debts never repaid. "Your family always did more than folks realized. The rest of us are just catching up." A silence fell, ripe and companionable. Garrett studied the sky, a bluebird chattered on the eaves, heedless of history. He heard Imogen's voice from the parlor, still warm with coffee. She'd spent half the night describing courthouse dates, timelines, details for the detectives. Now she rummaged through old photos with the thoroughness of someone determined to leave no stone unturned. In a few hours, she'd wheel her suitcase to the station, return north. Garrett would be left with a stack of notarized statements and the glimmering remains of a life nobody had expected him to inherit. He pressed a palm to the porch post, feeling the rough grain. "You think people'll ever look at this house and not see the curse?" Linda's answer was instant. Ask them in a year after the orchard blooms right when the papers call it the gold house. Memories are short, especially for fortune. He nodded, caught between amusement and solemnity. I just want peace, a chance to work, fix things. I don't care about parades. Linda shrugged. History likes forgetting, Garrett, but you made sure the truth's on record now. You saved your mother's legacy, hell, the whole town's conscience. An engine whined down the drive, a delivery van early. The driver knocked, hands trembling with an anonymous package, official correspondence. As Garrett signed, Linda craned to read the sender. That's the state attorney's seal, her voice sharpened. He waited until the van rumbled away before slicing through the envelope. A single letterhead, crisp and efficient. Dear Mr. Whittaker, on review of your documentation, your family's property rights have been fully restored. Further, the state wishes to initiate restitution talks regarding assets misappropriated during the fraud outlined in your evidence. Garrett read the rest twice, just to be certain. They're returning the house and all the land, he said quietly. They're even talking about arranging a public apology. Linda let out a low whistle. You ever think, just for a second, your luck would hold this far? He chuckled, folding the letter. I always thought I'd be the punchline, not the hero. She swatted his arm. Don't get cocky, it's only sunrise. Imogen, hearing the laughter, appeared in the hall, cardigan askew. You know what I remember, she said, eyes shining. Your mother on the porch one summer telling me no secret was worth dying over. I kept the silence all these years. Now I think she was wrong. Sometimes the truth is how you start living again. Garrett's voice caught. I wish she could see all this. Imogen pressed his shoulder gently. She would say you're right on time. The trio fell into easy motions, coffee poured, windows propped, the kitchen table laid out with folders and battered Polaroids. Sunlight gathered in the old house like music tuning up. For the first time, laughter bounced instead of creaked. By early afternoon, word had already spread through town. Folks who'd crossed the street to avoid the manor now slowed their cars, craning for a look. The cursed place looked unchanged, yet something about it had softened, a bit of storm stripped away. Someone knocked, sharp and hesitant. Linda peeked through the curtain, then opened the door to two girls from the local high school, one clutching a notepad, the other with a camera slung around her neck. Mr. Whittaker, the first asked nervously. We're running the school paper. Would you, she hesitated, cheeks flushing, could you tell us what it's like to find buried treasure, and what you do next? Garrett regarded them, then gestured to the orchard beyond. See those trees? Nothing's magic about digging in mud. Sometimes treasure's just the patience to look for it. The girl with the camera snapped the photo, hands trembling in excitement. Is it true you found a real code like a spy? His grin was crooked, infectious. Only if you count family stories as secret codes. My grandfather left the map not to hide things from us, but to make sure the right person found them. Are you keeping the gold? The first girl pressed, tenacious. He shook his head. Most is evidence, some goes to the state, a little stays for the orchard. What matters, he tapped his chest lightly, is that the story's out there now, that nobody can poison this place with secrets anymore. They thanked him, almost bowing, laughing at their own nerves, and hurried back down the path, eager to be the first to report the new legend of Chestnut Hill. Garrett stepped to the window and watched them go. He saw old Mr. Diamond from across the street nod to him for the first time in years, garden hose in hand. A soft knock, gentler this time, sounded at the kitchen door. Garrett opened it to find young clerk Brant, the bank's junior loan officer, red-faced and wide-eyed. I just wanted to say, Brant stammered, fiddling with his cap, all your liens are cleared, sir. The bank's well, we're sorry, that's all. Thank you, Garrett replied, meaning it. Everyone's got a new page today. Past noon, Imogen prepared to leave. She squeezed Garrett's hand at the foot of the porch steps. You'll keep the orchard. He nodded and fixed the windows, and start something that isn't built on fear. Imogen's smile was fierce, approving. Your name's good here now. Plant something for each secret you brought to light. Maybe in a few years, Chestnut Hill will call this place blessed. She shouldered her bag, the taxi kicking up gravel as she went. Linda stood silent beside him for a moment, then nudged him gently. Go get some sleep, Builder. But Garrett pressed into the orchard instead. He found the patch where he'd dug up the evidence, mud now drying, sunlight pooling. With reverence, he knelt and pressed a single daisy into the surface, like the one from the journal. For luck, Mom, he murmured. He stood wiping his hands. All around, the trees answered with birdsong. The rest of the day unfurled like a strange, sweet dream. Linda fielded calls, publishers clamored, reporters wrote their headlines, and a parade of locals appeared, offering casseroles, flower pots, the first apology he'd heard from more than one neighbor in years. By dusk, he and Linda wandered the rooms, mapping what would need new joists, what floors could be sanded, how to strip water stains from old glass. In the music room, Garrett dusted off the last surviving upright piano, keys yellow and cracked, but the strings mostly true. He sat as the sun dropped its final embers through orchard branches, and played the first bars of the melody his mother once hummed while patching broken banisters, a lullaby, circuitous and hopeful. From the parlor, Linda listened, blinking back something stubborn and private. The song wound through the halls, out past peeling shutters into the heart of Chestnut Hill, a tune for starting over. Time slowed, distilled. Garrett's hands stilled on the keys. The world outside was uncertain. Nothing could erase the years lost to fear and anger, but something in the music, a memory, a promise, made peace with unfinished things. The orchard glimmered silver as the moon rose. Garrett closed the piano lid, crossing quietly to the window, watching fireflies tumble in the nave of apple trees. He whispered, unsure if the night would let him keep the feeling, "We're home, Ma." The house creaked in the settling dark, but there was no warning, no omen, just the steady, peaceful heart of a place remade. Tomorrow he'd call a contractor. Next week maybe he'd hang a sign by the road, Whitaker Orchard, restoration in progress. Schoolchildren would come, the county fair would judge his apples next spring. He'd rebuild room by room as long as it took. But tonight, Garrett leaned against the windowsill, alone but not lonely, every part of his story finally known. A gentle wind rattled the glass, carrying voices he'd always thought lost to time. If you've ever seen a haunted house made whole, you understand. The truest gold is the courage to let the truth out and let hope in. The manor had been cursed by secrets, yes, but now it was blessed, flush with light, ready for song. Garrett watched the first apple blossoms drift across the sill, and for the first time in years felt only peace.